System riding to the core. Yeah. Reppin' inner city left.
This is the Inner City Left broadcast. Today is Thursday, January 1st. I'm Amin Team K alongside Amoja, Lil Tanky Sumler. Amoja, hello. Happy New Year. How did you sleep? Did you party all night? I know we were able to kick it with some artists the other day, but I don't know what you were doing last night. Was you turn up all night? Big party time? Excellent.
You know me, man. The one thing I promised myself was I wasn't going to give no speeches. And that's good because, you know, motherfuckers giving world speeches, got drones being flown at them and shit. You know, I avoided that by just staying in and making art with cool people. Make more art, less speeches.
Yeah. Well, I think what's interesting is it didn't matter if what you're referencing. Let's just talk about it, because this was not about staying home, my friend. Russia intelligence retrieves a flight from the Ukrainian drone shot down near Putin's residence. Okay.
Oh, it's what we call a smoking gun.
Decryption shows that the drone's ultimate target was a specific facility within Putin's Novgorod residence. Evidence will now be handed over to U.S. officials. Those who are on YouTube see the wreckage in the snow. Seems like a big drone to me. Against your point, I guess, if Putin would have stayed home in his certain place in a certain area, maybe he wouldn't be here today. And I told you about this, and you guys kind of made fun of me a little bit when I was like, I don't like New Year's Eve because I always feel like someone is going to die right before New Year's and they won't be able to see the new year. And then someone will die immediately as soon as the new year happens and won't be able to get to see 2026. And I don't know. There's more of it in that way. I guess we're geopolitical experts, so we deal in mass death all the time. But Putin might have not been able to see the new year. What are your thoughts on this? And B, sort of what does this say about, where escalation is going to be as the special military operations move forward in 2026?
We talked about this, right? The wild speeches that Zelensky had been giving lately, talking about, policies change, politicians change, politicians die. He said that shit like more than once, and it was kind of an open thread. Like, we're like, I wonder who he's referring to, right? I guess we know now. And that's the thing, right? This kind of stuff, it's like when all of the people rush out to make all of these beautiful thought op-eds about, why we have to have regime change in Venezuela. It's for the people. It's to unlock, right? And then Trump comes out and he's like, nah, it's for the oil. You got Kaya Kallas out there doing her best to obfuscate what's happening. Oh, we can't trust anything that these Russians say. How do we know that Zelensky, knew anything about it? And then you got Zelensky out there giving these speeches like, I'm trying to kill Putin, right? And it just undoes all of the obfuscation that the Europeans are trying to create. My question would be to the journalist, where then is that interrogation of someone like Zelensky? Why is it that Saddam Hussein is a strong man, but Zelensky is a president? He's not been elected. He's way past his term, right? And this is a man that is ordering assassinations. My question to the journalist is, where is your integrity? Like, how do you not have a straight up question to Zelensky at the next press conference? Are you trying to assassinate the head of the Russian government?
Yeah,
right.
Giuliani is named himself president. Not possible, but he named himself president. And we totally fine doing business with him. As you remember, Trump said, I'm going to get right back to you. Trump said, he's a good guy, but a very tough past. He's a very tough past. And, we deal with the prince, crown prince and the kings. But, God forbid, Maduro wins again. Anyway, I'll let you continue, but I just wanted to throw Giuliani into the mix as well.
I think Giuliani's he's exactly the same scenario. How about this? And I know you've seen it. They're turning Giuliani into a sex symbol, right? Like, that is happening. He's the most handsome, leader in the world. Look at how rugged and manly. It's like, I'm going to remind y'all all, I'm going to let you finish, but at the end of the day, Buddy's a head chopper. Like, I don't mean that, again, in a derogatory way. This man literally came up through, he had a bounty from even the United States government, a $20 million bounty for deeds of his past, alleged deeds of his past. Let's say alleged. We'll say alleged. But I don't think he's denied them. He just said, I was young, I made some decisions. I've now come, you know what I'm saying? Like, he's never been like, yeah, I
was drunk driving after prom, He was a kid.
He's not a strong man, though. He's the president, and we're going to have elections in Syria one day. Right. But yeah, trying to kill Putin. I think that's a question that we have to ask. Does the West now openly advocate for assassination? They played these little games in Israel, for a long time where they never want to ask these questions. And we always just assumed there was a blanket protection for like the things you can say to Israeli politicians. But now what we're starting to see is it's really anybody that is in a Western government. You get to make the rules. If you want to kill world leaders that are not Western, that's just the cost of doing business, right? This is a person that is literally now 2 times within the past week had ties to a failed assassination attempt on Vladimir Putin. And this has shown up all the Russian Duma has already ordered that a retaliation take place. We don't know what that's going to be. We don't know when that's going to be. The chatter is crazy about Orishniks, especially now that they're deployed in Belarus as well. But we don't know. Like, the Russians have, up till this point, shown a remarkable amount of, lenience is the only other word is lenient. They've been incredibly lenient for the things that the Ukrainians have done. But an attempt on the head of the Russian state, you have to assume there will be a response for this, like a big response.
I mean, what happened to the de-escalation that was supposed to come with Donald Trump as the president? And remember, we were all up in arms about, well, Biden is going to allow strikes into Russia. What? This is going to cause World War III. And, Donnie J up there, he's going to start World War III. He's going to do this. But now you guys are giving go-aheads to take attempts on Putin's. And look, this is not the first time. I do remember there has been several sort of sneaky moments. Putin might have been here, might have been there. And we know this is what the West does because this is what they did in Doha. This is what Israel does. Let's not forget terrorist attack in the Moscow symphony where several people were murdered.
Right.
And
but that was ISIS-K.
So the West, like I said, the West.
Archer and all of his friends.
Yeah. Well, and hey, let's also, speaking about ISIS, hey, we're just throwing it all out there, right? Happy New Year. Welcome to 2026. All the Nigerian experts are talking about how all these ISIS targets that were hit in Nigeria were Muslim Christians. And he's like, what Christians were they protecting? It seems to me they just want to continually escalate sort of the war on Islam. And, and look, I'm Muslim, so I am biased on this. But Islam is inherently anti-capitalist in many ways. Yeah. And, they don't like that. They like people who have the Muslim rhetoric, but do what they want to do. The Emirati regimes, the Saudi regime, and it's a regime. It's a authoritarian monarchy, okay? But we can kick in and talk with them. But there's a problem with Maduro's elections. There's a problem with Putin's elections. we're going to get to Iran here in a second. I'm surprised they haven't gotten to the Iran's elections are fugazi. You know, again, they just have a different political structure there. Again, something specifically there to stop the West from infiltrating. This is all silly things that you hear about Cuba and all these other spies and things like this. Yes, if you enter my country and we have a history of destabilizing my country, ask, Guinea-Bissau and ask Benin and ask these other places that are trying to get away from Western influence, how that is going for them. I wanted to just give you just another chance to sort of to kind of talk a little bit about what is happening within the Donbass right now. What is happening with the actual fighting?
I want to circle back to something you said about Nigeria.
And circle back and
this is important because, like you said, those strikes were not in Christian associated areas, right? We need to also look at the strikes that happened in Benin less than a month ago. And the thing that both of those strikes have in common is they're incredibly close to the Sahel. It's almost like these are probing attacks, right? To see how much time would we have if, in fact, there was a move to be made against the Sahel. Feels to me a lot like a probing attack. You know, and that makes more sense than the stories that were being told. But maybe it's just all coincidence that all of these things are so close to the African states that are uniting militantly, right, and representing connection that rejects the West, right, looks towards China, looks towards Russia. Maybe it's all coincidence. And you brought up Ukraine. The battlefield is the battlefield, and it's static. But what we've seen is the capture of Myrnograd, which is over by Pokrovsk. This was, again, a really large city. It held out for weeks, and then ultimately it fell within the last week. It looks as if there's going to be a force of arms where they're able to achieve their goals militarily. And this is consistently what the Russians have said. I want to say again, the people that think removing Putin will somehow resolve this conflict do not understand Sun Tzu principles. Know yourself and know your enemy. The person most likely to become the leader of Russia if Putin was to die is Medvedev. And Medvedev, especially after these assassination attempts, he's openly vowed to be the end of Zelensky. I mean, he's saying things like he'll never have another easy sleep the rest of his life. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's so easy to reduce the Russian Federation to Putin, but please understand it's a living, breathing apparatus with its own aims, its own agendas, and its own players. Like Putin, as powerful as you think Putin is, Putin has people he has to answer to as well. People that are running out of patience and not in the ways that you think, not running out of patience for the special military operation, running out of patience for the limitations that have been imposed upon their military as it stands. People that want to see the gloves come off. And Medvedev is definitely one of those guys. If Putin was to be removed through some type of means like this, assuming there wasn't even a dead man switch, which is important to acknowledge for a world leader this powerful, right? A dead man switch is something whereas it can initiate a strike, in the event of, an assassination or something like that. The Soviets certainly had it. The Americans have such a system. It's highly probable Xi Jinping has such a system, right? Assuming that the Russians didn't even automatically retaliate in a cataclysmic way, any of the leadership that would be coming into Russia would be far more bearish on their relations with the West. In many ways, they see Putin as the Gorbachev, you're starting to lose it. You want to be respected by the West too much. They're not going to respect you. You've given up too much. Look at what it's cost us. We're running out of time. That's the mood on the Russian street as far as what the other leadership in Russia looks like and sounds like. Medvedev comes in, I see the whole Ukrainian situation playing out much, much faster.
You don't do that. You want to galvanize a nation? I don't think, again, the blowback just doesn't make sense to me. And I don't know what, it just seems like they want to provoke war without saying, hey, we started it, what is the point at this juncture? And you wonder what's going to happen in Venezuela. You wonder what's going to happen in Taiwan, possibly via Japan or Philippines or even South Korea or something like that. And, also wondering about Iran. Let's talk about Iran for a little bit, shall we? We're back on the rhetoric. As you know, Benjamin Netanyahu, he slid to Miami, or at least in Florida. He loves going to Florida, loves going to Mar-a-Lago, hanging out with Trump. And a lot of things were said. But again, it's going back. Trump, I think, said, if they get we might strike them, but if they get the nuclear bomb, we're going to strike them fast. And that silly rhetoric that Trump always utilizes. I just want to show a little video really quickly because I think that is fun personally. And I think it does a good job of sort of showing how this kind of thing continues to exist. Netanyahu is a warning Iran could soon be capable of targeting the U.S. city with nuclear weapons. This is from Suppressed News. Netanyahu has been warning since 1995 that Iran will have nuclear weapons soon, in 2 or 3 weeks or a year. This is a little compilation for you, my friend, and for our listeners as well. Here we go. Any moment.
Iran could produce a nuclear weapon in a very short time. It could be a year. It could be within a few months.
They have the wherewithal, the stored up, preserved knowledge to make a bomb very quickly if they wanted to do it.
Iran is so dangerous. So from having the fissile material for an entire arsenal of nuclear bombs.
They're very close. They're 6 months away from being a 90% of having
This is in
the enriched uranium
2012.
for an atom bomb.
Iran is gearing up to produce 25 bombs, atomic bombs a year, 250 bombs a decade.
Ladies and gentlemen, time is running out.
Iran will
It's
be
in 96.
capable of producing alone, without importing anything, nuclear bombs within 3 to 5 years.
That was in 1995, 3 to 5 years. My friend, we've been doing this for a while. Sort of whatever this song and dance is, whatever this tit for tat is. A lot of people's kind of talking about, kind of the missile exchanges that were happening between Israel and Iran, sort of just kind of the opening salvo, or maybe that's the wrong terminology, but sort of just the opening of what a larger conflict could look like. Where are we at with the Iran conflict here, and do you expect
I think
them to
the phraseology used is in fact perfect. A salvo is something that naval ships used to trade, right? Broadsides. We'll have a salvo back and forth, right? What happened in the so-called 12-day war is absolutely that. It was the opening salvos. Neither force is depleted. Neither force is spent. The root causes are unanswered. One thing that you mentioned before the video that I think is relevant is Trump didn't say we'll be there faster if they get a nuclear bomb. He said they'll be there faster if they even get back to trying to restore any nuclear capability. I think that's an important signal change because, once again, this was a right that was allegedly allowed, right, under the auspices of the Atomic Energy, the IAAA, right, which is like the energy United Nations watchdog, right? They're the ones that, again, the West are the ones that violated the terms of what that looked like. There was nothing in there that said, this is how much you get to enrich to, right? In the initial non-proliferation treaty, there's nothing that says how far you can and cannot enrich uranium. These were limitations that were applied to them by the Europeans, and the Iranians agreed to them. And then the Americans immediately reneged on the deal because the Americans feel like Ultimately, any level of nuclear enrichment is unacceptable. And that's not a decision other countries get to make when we talk about what sovereignty is. Like, either you believe in sovereignty or you don't, right? Now, there's also the quote unquote law of the jungle. I'm stronger than you. I'll make sure you don't. But then if that's what it is, say that's what it is. And that's what Trump is saying it is with Bibi, right? He's saying, pray that I do not alter the deal any further. You know, I have to punish you with the Star Wars reference. Yeah. That's what it is. And so because these things are not resolved, we will see violence. It's not if, it's when. And realistically, you have to assume if one of these things happens, both of these things will happen, right? Because the fear is in the event of a real war with the Iranians will close the Straits of Hormuz, which they've demonstrated they potentially have the capacity to do. In such a scenario, you should assume the Venezuelan war will happen inevitably, immediately, like probably within hours, possibly days, but probably hours, because the spice must flow. Like if the Straits of Hormuz are shut off and the Gulf states are not able to reasonably contribute their oil to the global economy, the only place the Americans can make up for such a loss is to plunder Venezuela. So those ties are inextricably linked.
Some other things that I think are relevant to this conversation, okay, is of course the trillion, there's $1 trillion budget passing, okay, for military spending. Boeing awarded $8.6 billion contract to Pentagon for 25 F-15 jets for Israel. This is from Mike from PA. Roughly the education budget for K through 12 for all children in Pennsylvania. Kids have 80-year-old rundown schools, while Israel gets another 25 fighter jets. When are people going to get mad? Again, I know this is like kind of, I guess, par for the course now. All of our money is just going to go to Israel. It's all going to go to Ukraine. It's all going to go to all the places that we need as proxies to destabilize, whether it's Israel, you want to destabilize all the resistance movements. In Ukraine, you want to destabilize Russia and continue to break it down into smaller regions. And in China, you want to break their sort of monopoly on, rare earths and other things and sort of their takeover of the global economy. And yet we don't get any health care or student loan relief. The infrastructure here continues to crumble. AI bubble is just making life very difficult for the average person. And just sort of like, what is this going to do for Israel? What is this, 25 F-15s? I mean, I don't quite get what that's about. Just all of that. You can just break down all of that in your thoughts.
That was the thing that stood out to me was F-15s. Like, this is a very old platform. I mean, this is 80s tech. What does the IDF even want with F-15s? I mean, God knows, right? I mean, for the local stuff where you're just, but it's a superiority fighter. It's like the F-15 is not even a multi-role fighter, right? So like it's given task, air superiority, it can't really achieve. And most, I mean, I guess maybe flying over Lebanon, sure. But you're not I can't see any technical value for an F-15 on like an attack against Egypt, Turkey, Iran, the Saudis, like any of the near peer adversaries potentially that Israel could have a conflict with. All of them can certainly deal with fourth generation air fighters, right? Like, I mean, they're really old. It's like a Countach. It was great in the 80s. That's an F-15. They're not even like, it's not like Boeing has F-15s on the line, right? So this isn't even going to provide American jobs. They're not going to make new F-15s. There are no new F-15s. So they're going to recycle these from somewhere. It's a money. for me, it's hard to even get mad at the money for this because this is not real money. An F-15, that Boeing is not making 25 F-15s. They wouldn't even start a line for something that's 25. It's not enough, right? Like this. Remember we talked about the problem with American weapon manufacturers is they need to be in on scale. GM doesn't want to make 25 Corvettes. You know what I mean? Boeing has even more serious needs than someone like GM, you know? Like they want to be all in for 100, 150, 300. That's what they need to make a profit off a line, you know, for a vehicle
Is this a
such
bit
as
of
that.
maybe a bailout for Boeing?
It's a bailout, maybe, but it's realistically what's probably happened is some NATO country wants to get rid of their F-15s, so they're going to send them back to the United States in order to get some F-35s. So, you know, you just slide those to Israel like that. This feels like a bit of a round robin. Somebody had some F-15s.
It reminds me, yeah. It's paintings. It's like, oh, this is just a part of our collection. Does it really matter? Because you know, so much of war has become symbolism at this point, you know, especially with everyone trying to get this F-35. And it's like, but why? Though?
Right.
You know, it's like you guys need missile defense. You need troops. You need ammunition. Like, I mean, you need a lot. But
Whatever
a lot of
you
these
need,
things
an
are just
F-35
prestige.
will clean the clock of an F-15. That's not even questionable. You know?
And Israel has F-35s, right?
Yeah. They're one of the only countries in the world with F-35s. Now, the Arabs, like Saudi Arabia, is getting F-35s, but they're getting a variant that doesn't have technical superiority over the Israeli version. I can't make this shit up, man.
They're getting F-35 light.
Minuses. Yeah.
ITE. It's like, you know how when you get the program, but you don't pay for it, so they'll give you like a light version. They get that F-35 lights.
Yeah. No.
You know, and I think just, you know, to one final point on this, it's, again, not what you need to so-called defeat a place like Iran or regime change Iran. Don't know this year is going to, how it's going to unfold, whether it's Venezuela, whether it's Iran, obviously, China, the continued special military operation, and other flashpoints. Well, how is, you know, the Trump administration and sort of the deep state brain trust going to handle these uphill battles when you can't win a propaganda war? You know, Putin says, don't fight the propaganda war with America. And I think people are understanding it's not about propaganda. Do what you, but at the end of the day, it's going to be about a war. There's not a whole lot of threats to North Korea because they have something special, a special gift and a mighty gift. And Iran has got to be thinking the same way. So we're going to see how this year unfolds again with Iran and their nuclear capability. But they have some pretty good missile technology, and that's not nothing. Anyway, just response to that. Any kind of final thoughts on today or whatevs?
The only other conflict we really didn't get into is the military exercises that the PLA is doing around Taiwan right now. I don't really know how worthy of conversation it is. It's nothing alarmist. It's what they do this every year. They do it several times a year. You know what I'm saying? They do maneuvers, you know, the same way South Korea and the Americans do maneuvers and simulate an attack on North Korea. Like,
you get mad
militaries do this
when we do it, but you get to do it even more provocatively.
Right.
And, you know, again, I think, you know, you're mentioning sort of, you know, these Taiwanese, you know, fighters, you know, going up against, I think they don't have J-20s, right? I mean, the whole thing is China's a J-20 and then Taiwan has like American stuff, right? But
yeah, they had,
them.
when did they fly? I think they actually flew F-15s. I think they did it. It was so the Taiwanese Air Force engaged. I really do. I think they flew F-15s, and the Chinese had J-20s and J-10s in the air, and there was communication, and the jets that the Taiwanese flew, they didn't even have missiles. So, like, how do you scramble and intercept without weapons. Like, what is that? That's like just running out in your yard saying, get out of my yard. You know, what happens when a dude
They
is
shook
like,
their
nah.
fists very demonstratively. And
You know, there was an engagement with
Kids.
naval vessels where the Taiwanese Coast Guard responds to the Chinese Coast Guard, you know, the China's Coast Guard. And the Taiwanese Coast Guard is speaking in English, and the Chinese Coast Guard is like, there's one China. You should be responding in Chinese, you know. And so it's little things like that. The Taiwanese are trying to prove that they're tough in foolish ways. Again, Sun Tzu, man, a smaller clan must make way for a larger clan unless they wish to be destroyed, right? Like, I mean, and there's no way that the Taiwanese do not understand these principles even more. Like Qingda who is the leader of Taiwan right now, he's backed himself into a corner and he's losing the will of even the Taiwanese people. They understand that their largest trading partner is China and that China economically could destroy them. Like China would never, like, look at what they've done to Japan just as a warning, right? They have far more control over the Taiwanese economy than they do the Japanese economy, you know? And so the military is just reminding you, we don't have to do it that way. Be careful. Be careful of things you say, because we're watching and we can do something about it. This is the number one red line that you shall not cross. They say it consistently over and over and over. But the West always thinks that people are playing or that they don't have to respect other cultures' red lines, you know.
Yeah, well said. Let's give a shout out to our podcast listeners. You know, sometimes you miss the video, you miss our pretty faces, but sending you guys all the love. You guys was the originals. So we appreciate y'all. InnerCityLove.com. You can get Fables, Foibles, Other American Sins by Amoja, Lil Tanky, Sumler. TMK, everywhere you find music, Lil Tanky, everywhere you find music, give us a stream. We got new music coming out next week, I think. So be looking out for that. We got a new song called Deep Fake on the way. Patreon.com/InnerCityLeft. Our patrons, y'all, we doing this one more year. Some of y'all have been with us for a few years. We appreciate the OGs and we appreciate the YGs as well. So with that being said, what are your final thoughts? I know we want to talk about Taiwan, but anything we missed other than that, what is your feeling of this new year? Any resolutions or silly things of that nature?
Man, be better at community, make more art, try to bring more love, more awareness. A little hippie, thanks. I'm a little hippie goth. We all know.
Yeah. For Amoja, Lil Tanky, Sumler, and I am Amin TMK. This is the Inner City Left broadcast. Peace and Happy New Year.
System riding to the core. Yeah. Reppin' Inner City Left.